Disclaimer: before we begin the video, let's set a common ground first. The official solo leveling manhwa is Timeline A, the anime adaptation is Timeline B, and the game is Timeline C. These names aren't officially confirmed by the studios, I'm just using them so we don't mix up the timelines we'll be talking about.
So what's up internet? Welcome back to Romanix Gaming. Today's video is going to be another character documentary video, where we learn about Igris, also known as Sian Halat, from Solo Leveling franchise. While working on this video, I didn't expect to learn some unseen secrets of the franchise, which you will be seeing in the video. So, without further ado, let's start today's video. Once upon a time, an ordinary boy was born in a quiet, unnamed village. Despite having an ordinary beginning, the boy was set apart by his longing for the sword. Even he didn't know when it began. He had a sword in his hand for as long as he could remember, and swung it until his hands were torn, or the practice weapon broke. Even though he didn't have a teacher, his body moved instinctively with the sword. This made the villagers laugh at him, and mock him for wasting time. Yet the boy didn't stop swinging his sword.
Then arrived a day, when a starved beast descended from the mountains, and rampaged through the village.
When everyone fled, the boy stood fast.
With a swing of his sword, followed a streak of light, and scarlet blood burst from the beast's neck. After the beast collapsed, the boy stood watching, while the crude wooden sword remained in his hand.
Seems I arrived a bit late.
Was said by a man who had once been a knight, but had taken charge of village watch in his hometown after retiring.
The man's eyes widened in shock, as he saw the fallen beast and the boy gripping his wooden sword. At that moment, he recognized the child as a prodigy, and offered to teach him proper swordsmanship. The boy's swordsmanship advanced at a lightning pace under the old knight's tutelage, and by the time he was 11, there was no one who could best him in a blade. With his talent, he had enough potential to go down in history, despite being born in a village that isn't kind to commoners.
The old knight was in a conflict of rather letting the boy stay in his nest, or let him advance towards the perilous skies at greater heights. But the moment the boy swung his sword, the old knight's worries vanished. He asked the boy if he wanted to become a knight. The boy, not believing his own ears, asked if it was possible. The old knight made it possible by writing a letter of recommendation to the Knights Academy.
The boy clutched the letter to his heart and went to the school, where what lay ahead differed greatly from what he had expected. All the nobles in the academy were more focused on socializing rather than training. A commoner like the boy only had two choices: either bow down to nobles or leave. Yet, the boy didn't give up and showed excellent skills in academics and real swordsmanship, despite the jealous nobles around him.
Time went by, and at the day of graduation, his hands shone the medal of top graduate. Finally, with his hard work, he had become a junior knight.
However, this didn't sit well with him, because the top graduates of the academy were intermediate knights. And won't the boy know it? It was due to the interference of the nobles, all because they couldn't see a commoner rise above them.
To solidify his suspicion, he was assigned on the very front lines of the war, where a greenhorn junior knight would never be sent.
But the boy saw this as an opportunity, and charged towards the enemy, swinging his sword until his white armor became red. Tales of the knight clad in red stuck fear into his enemies, because all his wars ended in victories. At some point, he began to be known as the Scarlet River Maker, Igris the Red.
The path that awaited him was far from easy, because between invasions, hunts, and conquests abroad, the victories were never easy. Even after knowing it was all nobles' doing, Igris beheaded barbarians, kicked aside knighthoods, and captured castles. Every time he returned victorious from the battlefield, the nobles' scrutiny grew harsher. And just as their resentment reached its peak, a great storm descended upon them.
A ceremony was held for Igris, who was hailed as the man responsible for ending the war. In that ceremony, the king told Igris to always remain by his side.
This wasn't seen very nicely by the nobles. No longer a junior knight, but with his skills and the king's favor, he became the kingdom's greatest knight. One day, a letter arrived, asking him to take a small group of soldiers and eliminate the rebels. He didn't understand the sudden order, but the letter had king's seal, and even doubting it would be considered disloyal. Upon arriving at the location, he wasn't greeted by allies, but by arrows. Soldiers came out from hidden places and took out his troops before they could fight back. He somehow escaped the battle, but then came the nobles, who told the army to put the traitor, Sian Halat, to death. This was when he realized that he had fallen into a trap.
Thinking he could take on the nobles, he grabbed his sword. but the nobles played a dirty trick and put another sword on his wife's neck. The message was clear: his own life for his wife's. But he was again betrayed by the nobles. They not only killed his wife, but him too. The anger of his final moments that he couldn't release made his soul wander in the darkness, like a shipwreck in a storm, until he encountered a powerful force. A darkness thick enough to blind him. A brilliant power that threatened to consume his soul. And within it, a gaze watched him. Without knowing who was it, Igris reached out into the shadows. When he first opened his eyes, he thought this world is a place that comes beyond death. He questioned himself, that was his end really this hollow and unworthy? He looked back at his life, after finding himself in that empty place, and thought that even after achieving so much, he had only failed his wife and friends in the end. However, he realized that even here, he feels a gaze. The same one that he had been feeling for days before his death, and it's the one that lies beyond this void. When he saw the gaze, he was scared for the first time. Thought that this gaze might blind him or unmake his very being, but then realized he had already died and met his end. So, nothing is holding him back from learning about this gaze. With that determination, he reached out and found himself standing face to face with Sung Jinwoo, the Shadow Monarch.
Jinwoo's first thought was, how is Igris here? But instead of answering, Igris realized that Jin was the same power, whose gaze he had felt for a long time, and his power is the limitless void. Igris politely asked Jinwoo about who he is, and how they both are here. But before Jinwoo could reply, the overseer intervened and offered to explain that. The overseer explained that this is his forbidden library, a place that holds all the secrets of the universe. The Sian Halat, who is standing here, is a story, because the real Igris is already a shadow soldier and serving Jinwoo. That is why Sian felt Jin was powers while he was in the story.
He further adds that under normal circumstances that gaze would have been nothing more than a feeling of being watched. But since Sian's connection strengthened with Jinwoo, after the former's death, he was born here. Because of the connection, he transcended the boundary between reality and a story, and was reborn. Without thinking anything else, Sian asked if Jinwoo could do the same for his late wife and friends, to which the overseer denied. Overseer explained that Sian being reborn was an exceptionally rare anomaly, made from countless coincidences, and can't be done again. Sian realized that there's nothing he can do anymore, and wanted to know why it all happened, and why was he the one who was reborn, even though he failed to protect his wife and friends. Neither Jinwoo nor the overseer had an answer to that. The overseer then asks Jinwoo to leave the library, since the former needs to check if any other books have been affected. He further asks to take Sian with him, since he doesn't want anything else in his collection but books.
Jinwoo agrees and takes Sian to Earth.
At Earth, Sian says that this place is different from where he is, but it's still peaceful, to which Jinwoo agrees. They meet Gina on street, and Jinwoo introduces Sian to her, further adding that he'll be staying with them.
Just then, Jinwoo receives a call and tells Gina to take Sian home. She isn't pleased by this, but still agrees. While on their way, a dungeon break happens, and Sian immediately goes to save people.
And yeah, he literally kills the magic beasts, as if killing mosquitoes.
After closing the gate, Gina sees licensed hunters approaching, and tells Sian they can go home now. After reaching the apartment complex, Sian decides to take a look at the surroundings, before entering the apartment.
While roaming in the city at nighttime, Sian was confused upon seeing the normal nightlife of city, and how people acted as usual even though a dungeon break happened mere hours ago. He thinks about his world, and how his wife would always see him with worry whenever he left for battle. Roaming further, he found a flower shop, and took interest in a particular flower. The owner gives him a free flower, because it wasn't going to be sold anyway. He hesitates to take something without paying, but later agrees.
He wanders around more, and thinks about his late wife, and the happiness she would have felt with just a flower. Another dungeon break happens nearby, and this time too he takes care of it.
However, in doing so, the flower is damaged and covered in blood. This breaks his heart, because he thinks he couldn't even protect a flower.
A few days later, Sian talks with Jinwoo about becoming a hunter. He explains that since he doesn't have any legal paperwork, Jinwoo's status as a guild master, and his relationship with Chairman Go Gun-hee, could help him skip the usual bureaucracy.
Jinwoo is actually surprised upon seeing how much Sian has learned about Earth in such a short span.
He agrees to help Sian become a hunter, but the latter has to join Ajin Guild. Sian doesn't see any problem in this, and leaves. However, Jinwoo realizes something isn't right with Sian right now, but doesn't push it.
Weeks later, Sian is submitting a report about the gates he cleared in last 3 days, and leaves after he has told everything to Jinwoo. However, Jinho senses something is wrong, and says that Sian is overexerting himself, as if he's entering dungeons with a death wish. Jinwoo thinks what he read about Sian, and understands what's happening. On the other side of city, Sian has cleared his 4th gate, and is trying to come to terms with his pain and PTSD, but is having a hard time. While walking in the city, he reaches the same flower shop he visited on his first day. The owner recognizes him, and senses that he isn't feeling well. She hands him a bouquet, and tells him to give this to his wife. However, the look in his eyes tells her everything. He's surprised upon seeing that she knows his wife passed, but she says that the same happened to his husband too, in a car accident. He asks, how was she able to move on after suffering through her loss? She explains that it wasn't easy at first, but as time passed, she realized that he can't stay curled up in pain forever, and even her husband would have scolded her if she was like that. She further adds that with time they need to let go of the pain and continue moving forward. Sian takes the bouquet and contemplates about the life he lived in the past few weeks. Later that day, he meets Jinwoo and explains why he asked to be a hunter. It was a means to ease his pain, but that didn't help much. So, he wants to try something different and spar against Igris for once. They arrive in Hunters Association's gym, where Sian and Igris spar. Sian loses the fight, but is actually relieved.
He explains that he understands that there lies a path beyond wrath, and that this defeat serves as a starting point on that new path. Jinwoo smiles and says that he's happy to hear that. So guys, that was it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and will comment about seeing another character's documentary in future. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care and subscribe to Romanix Gaming.